Hang on, people. Man, I think a lot of the ass people that watch him like to come over here and try to fire me up and get me to attack this dude. Look, I don't agree with this dude on a lot of things he does, but I don't really care if people follow him and want to agree with him. But he's, in my opinion, in this video, he's kind of giving out some bad information. He's trying to make himself seem like he knows better than cops because whatever reason. Well, let's take a look at kind of what he says.
Some people seriously think that this is the difference between being justified by a court and not. What?
Well, you're confused because you don't understand the law and you've never been in a courtroom and you've never had to use force on multiple subjects and you've never had to carry around by policy pepper spray, baton, less lethal, impact weapons, Kubaton, whatever it is that your department allows, and you have all these options if you've never had to defend yourself. That's why you have this look on your face.
You know, my friend who's a cop said that I shouldn't carry a less lethal tool because if I ever have to use my firearm in a defensive encounter, then the district attorney will take me to task and charge me because I didn't use my less lethal tool instead. So
this is what I call sometimes people will give half-truths is really the best lie. If you can tell a lie and put in a little truth, it's much easier to get people to believe it. Now, first of all, what he said here probably isn't what a cop said. He's just probably paraphrasing it to make his point. A DA isn't going to charge somebody because they use pepper spray. The prosecution is going to make its case that you used excessive force by using your gun because you had pepper spray. And then that puts the onus back on you to prove why you didn't use pepper spray, which means you need to put on a defense, which means a lot of times attorneys don't want you testifying against yourself in a trial, and they'll tell you to keep your mouth shut. But when they can throw out things that make you look guilty and then you don't defend it, then you look like an idiot. So a half-truth here isn't really, isn't fair to the people that are trying to get education out here.
Face, this is a stupid argument. This is a dumb gun saying that, well, I've got a gun on me and so I don't want to carry less lethal just in case I have to use it. Where did that come from?
I'll tell you where it came from. It came from real life experience and not people getting on YouTube making videos because they're getting something free from a company and promoting that. Now, I don't know if he's getting this free or not, but he seems to love this pepper spray. And to me, in the spirit of honesty, if you're getting something free from a company, you ought to tell people, hey, they gave me this. And I've done a couple videos where somebody sent me things, and I said, hey, they gave me this, and I didn't promise to give them a good eval, and I'm not getting nothing free, and you know what? It is what it is. So that again comes into credibility, but credibility also comes when somebody's giving you advice on what to do when you're dealing with the government that could cost you your freedom and put you in prison, and they're telling you this because they read some books or they've talked to some people or went to a few trainings, and they're repeating what they've told, yet they've never had to defend themselves in court against a person. They've never had to make that critical decision. I mean, to me, you're asking for trouble there, but that's my opinion. Let me cover this topic here.
Well, I got to respond to the ass dude. I mean, ass, whatever. The guy who's giving out all the advice. Notice my green screen? Woo! That gives me credibility. Hang on. Got me a microphone. Lemonade, that cool, refreshing drink. Okay, so, hang on, wait, that's not good enough. Because we got to be, we got to look the part. Okay, this gives me creds. I got a green screen, I got a microphone, I got my tactical cool scarf, I got my police hat. Woo, this guy must know what he's talking about. All right, so let's talk about Mr. I should carry pepper spray and I shouldn't listen to cops who have been around. I mean, I just can't believe this guy is teaching, and there's so many followers. Look, and let me say this from the start for all the people out there that want to say I'm telling everybody what to do. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you carry switchblades, scissors, broomsticks, pepper spray, stun grenades, taser, knives, billy club, nunchucks. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I'm passing on to people that want to know real world experience, my experience from being a cop over 30 years, from testifying in court, from seeing use of force, from taking reports from people who were involved in use of force, from doing all this, actually doing it, and I mean, I've worked with a lot of agencies with a lot of different use of force policies. U.S. Marshals, little different use of force. FBI, sworn in as deputy FBI, different use of force policy. State, different use of force policy. Worked with the Secret Service, different use of force policy. So I know a little bit about use of force. Now you can say it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years. I'm telling you, use of force don't change a whole bunch. The U.S. Supreme Court takes forever to get new rulings. We're still using rulings from the 60s. So let me tell you something. If you have multiple force options, multiple things that you can use, and you carry a gun, and you don't use those other things, you got some explaining to do, Lucy. I'm telling you, it's going to be harder. Cops, when we do cops, and cops are required to carry tasers and batons and handcuffs and less lethal and Kubaton and a knife and pepper spray, and they've got all this crap. Every time there's a use of force, when somebody's evaluating that and you're defending that in real court, not in YouTube court with my green screen telling everybody, don't listen to cops, listen to me. I've never been in court. I've never had to arrest anybody. I've never done a police report that were questioned and reviewed by lawyers and fought over by judges and thrown out and accepted and put up in tests. No, don't listen to those people. Who believes a cop just because a cop says don't carry that? Believe me, because when shit hits the fan, you can come back to my YouTube and leave a channel, and then I'll delete it. Because that's what you're getting from the green screen guy. Okay, I'm sorry. I think that's irresponsible advice. I think he may mean well. I think that's great. He can do what he wants. He can give advice. It's free. Knock yourself out. And you can have 1,000 people that follow you and say, hey, this dude must know what he's doing. He's got all the cool microphones, green screen, spotlights. Woo, look at me. That don't mean shit, people. I'm sorry. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, years of working in use of force cases, seeing people get screwed in court, if you have multiple choices and you choose, because that's what they're going to say, you chose not to use those, which really isn't the case. What usually happens is shit hits a fan and you go for your gun and then you're backed up and it's hard to de-escalate, it's hard to get away, and then you're fighting for your gun, a guy gets shot, and now you like, why didn't you use a pepper spray? Why didn't you use your stun gun? Why didn't you use your knife? Why didn't you use less lethal? Why didn't you pull a spitball out and shoot it and spit in his eye? If you've got all these use of force tricks and you don't use them, the onus is on you to ensure why you didn't use them. You have to defend. It puts the burden of proof. It's like cops. When we do a warrant, we no longer are responsible if that warrant's wrong because it's been reviewed by a DA and a judge, and now they have to. If anybody wants to question my warrant once I run it through the DA and the judge, they don't question me. The only thing they question me about is everything in that warrant true? Yes. Okay. Is that what you reviewed, DA? Yes. Is that what? Now they have to defend their warrant because they approved it and they signed it. That's what happens when you get out there on a use of force case. You have to defend why you chose your gun, why you didn't choose your pepper spray, why you didn't choose your mace, why you didn't choose your baton, why you didn't do your kung fu, snap, grab, twist, crackle, and pop. You got to defend all that. And I'm telling you from real world experience, if you only have a gun, either deadly force is authorized or it's not. But to reach fear and the level of fear that the courts want to see before you use deadly force, it's much easier if you only have a gun, because now you have, It's my only means of defense. If he gets it away, he can shoot me. I didn't have any other options. That was my only option. I was in fear for my life. He was bigger, stronger. I was already bleeding. I was hurt. It was at night. I was outnumbered. I was in fear of my life. You're authorized to use your gun. We train cops, and cops are trained every day. The law says there is no requirement for you to use less force and non-lethal force if lethal force is authorized. If deadly force is authorized, I can use deadly force. No court in the land to say, well, we know you were authorized to use a gun, but why didn't you use a taser? Why didn't you use? I was authorized to use a gun. Now, if you get in a situation where you can't use a gun and it's not authorized and you don't use your taser and pepper spray and all that and just go to gun, that's where you get in problems. So, I mean, look, the law is not clear. It's as clear as mud. And that's why lawyers get to argue it and make all these damn excuses and do all this shit. But I'm telling you, that is bad advice, in my opinion. I'm not hating on the guy. I'm not saying unsubscribe to him. I don't really care. I just wish you guys that subscribe to him wouldn't come here and cry about how he knows more than me and he's smarter than me. I don't give a shit. All right? What I try to do is put out good, real information from my experience and training, which is fairly substantial, and I try to pass it on. And I get nothing for it. I don't care. I ain't begging you to subscribe. I ain't begging you to go to my website. I ain't begging you to hit my Patreon. I don't give a shit about all that. You can go follow these people that are begging you, but I'm telling you the hard truth. And if you want comforting lies, then go to the green screen and hear all the fancy stuff about. Don't listen to those cops. Don't listen to those cops who's been around for 10 years, who's been in court, who's had to defend themselves, who had to follow 1,400 pages of policy with each agency and have to know the law and have to defend every action they do when they go to court, or they're held accountable, they're fired, or they're written up, or they're given days on the beach. Don't listen to those guys. Listen to this green screen guy who's absolutely had to do none of that. But he knows better. So you know what? Take it for what it's worth. I don't really care. Somebody sent me that video, I watched it, and I went, dude, I can't believe you're telling people to carry all this extra crap. Remember, in a critical, for the guys watching me, I don't know what the hell he's talking about over there. Something about room dying and cold or whatever. I don't know. People are always quoting his ass. I don't care about him. I don't watch him, and I don't care what he says. But when somebody shows me that somebody on the internet, anybody, including him, putting out bad information, then I'll cover it and I'll give my opinion. In my opinion, that's irresponsible to tell somebody you should carry pepper spray because the cops tell you not to, don't listen to them. You should listen to me. Because he ain't going to defend you. And I'll tell you right now, you do anything I tell you to do, and you did it the way I said it, and you got video proof, you have your lawyer subpoena me. I'll testify. I ain't charging you nothing. I've already been qualified as an expert for the state and the feds, and I've testified in court as an expert in the use of force. So I will give you free, if you do what I said in a video and you explain it and that's what you use, I'll be more than happy to talk to your attorney. I'll call your attorney. I'll help him on his defense. That's what I'll give you, and it's free. It ain't going to cost you a penny.
So I did a little research on pepper spray and defense and kind of read some things. And, of course, anybody that sells pepper spray is going to be pushing it. Anybody that's getting free pepper spray from a company is probably going to say that company's pepper spray is better than, a gun. But in here they get into using it against a rape or aggression or violent crime, self-defense. If you have pepper spray, you better know when you can use it and when you can't. So here are things from Wikipedia, which actually isn't too bad. A lot of people crack on Wikipedia, but sometimes they get things pretty right. You got to verify the sources just like in everything. But they kind of go through, and this is kind of what most officers are taught. In use of force, there's different levels of force in the force continuum or the escalation of force, and you're supposed to show up with officer presence, and then you're supposed to use good verbal commands, and then you go to empty hand submission techniques and hand control techniques, then intermediate weapons, and then lethal or deadly force. Now, intermediate weapons is basically anything other than deadly force. If you put your hands on somebody, you're using force. So, if you have the expandable baton, pepper spray, taser, beanbag rounds, etc., and you carry all this and you happen to carry around a backpack with all this information, then you need to know the law for using each of those. Are there different times and different things that you can or cannot use? And look, people, I'm not telling you not to carry pepper spray. If you don't have anything else to defend yourself, pepper spray is great. If you don't have anything else but an axe that you left in the car because you were cutting wood, then an axe is great. You have to use what you have. But when you make these things available, or you say you have them available and then you don't use them, it's only reasonable that you have to justify why didn't you? You're going to have to answer the question. You had pepper spray, why didn't you use it? If the answer is the guy had a gun and he was shooting at me, no problem. Then you don't have a problem. That's not the issue with most people using pepper spray. The problem with most people having pepper spray and not using it is, was deadly force clearly authorized? Did you have options? And if you did have options, why didn't you choose those other options? And in a deadly force situation or deadly force encounter, deadly force critical incident, whatever you want to call it, whatever the fancy term they're using now to impress people, I'm telling you, decisions slow down reaction time. Decisions cost people lives, because while you're deciding, should I, woulda, coulda used pepper spray, should I, woulda, coulda used the baton, should I, woulda, coulda used the knife, maybe I ought to just use the gun, you've lost critical reaction time. You're already behind the power curve because reaction is always slower than action. And now you're adding in several decision processes into that equation. You're creating a losing battle, and you're lessening the chance of you to survive a critical incident. Usually happens very quickly and very fast without a lot of time to decide, well, should I use pepper spray? If I decide to use pepper spray, let me get it off my belt. Let me make sure the safety's off. Let me point it. Oops, you know what? 2 seconds ago, before I got my pepper spray out, that would have been the best choice. Now, the guy's pulling a knife and he's running at me and he's got a gun. Now I need to go to my gun. Well, now we have to decide how to get rid of the pepper spray. Should we hang it back on our belt because of muscle memory, because that's how we always do it? Or do we throw it on the ground because we're afraid to break it and it's going to cost us money? And then we got to grab our gun out, remember where our gun's out, and get our gun out and make sure the safety's off if we have a safety. And now all these decisions has caused you to lose the battle. Meanwhile, while you're bleeding out, you can remember the green screen saying, you know what? Maybe carrying pepper spray wasn't the best advice. Now, as I've said before, the law isn't clear, and those that tell you there's nice, easy answers are usually the ones that you not believe in. People get upset with me because they're saying I flip-flop and I change my opinion and I change my stance and sometimes I'm this. That's because that's how the law is. That's why when 9 Supreme Court justices try to agree on a law, they never agree. You supposedly have the top minds in the legal field, and they can't agree. They can't agree because there's no clear answers and it's not clear. So when somebody tells you it's clear and listen to me because I got all the answers, well, then that's probably a clue that you shouldn't listen to them. But anyway, to break this down, easy, presence, verbalization, empty hand, intermediate weapons. If you have all this, people are going to say, well, Rick, aren't you going to have to justify on why you didn't talk? Yeah, you would. If there is a situation where you could talk your way out, that helps your case. So you do have to say why you didn't go to these other options. But these are options that everybody has. And sometimes time doesn't allow you to talk. Time doesn't allow you to go empty hands. The guy's bigger, stronger, you're older, weaker, you're frail, you just got out of an injury, you have a back problem. Empty hand is not an option. But don't think that because you have these options, you're not going to be asked, why didn't you do other things? And why did you just go to the mean gun and just go to deadly force? Well, believe me, it's easier the less choices that you have to explain why you didn't use and why you used deadly force. But again, you can believe who you want. I don't care what you do, people. I'm giving you my opinion on why I think and why most cops think it's a bad idea for citizens who aren't trained, that aren't proficient with use of force, that don't have to use it every day, that's never defended it in court, that doesn't have the mindset that they're out there in battle every day and they don't have protective vests and they don't have backup and they don't have radio and they've never followed policy and read 1,400 pages of policy. That's a lot of stuff to put on somebody that doesn't do that for a living. And so when people are out here telling you, oh no, you should carry pepper spray, I'm sorry, I think that's bad advice. My opinion. Take it or leave it. In this case, perfect example, they're questioning officers because there was multiple officers on scene and not all had their guns raised and others did. So why is it different? And what it's going to come down to is officers' experience and training. Who perceived the threat? The officers that didn't have their gun up, they may say, I didn't see a threat. Well, that's great. That's your choice. You don't have to see a threat. The officers that had their guns up, they're going to need to articulate why they felt the threat. But again, when you have different options and different levels of training, it creates lag time. It creates more things to think about. And thinking about a lot of things in a critical incident is not a good thing. Muscle memory, large gross motor skills. That's what's taught. That's what seems to work. Can somebody click their magazine out with their little pinky? Yes. Can they use, I get all this, the magazine release is just as big as a slide, and you shouldn't teach slide and pull the slingshot method. Look, I'm telling you, large gross motor skills work better in crisis. It's proven over and over again. Can somebody that trains every day the same way and is very proficient with that, can they survive in a critical incident? Will they do it? Maybe. Maybe if and buts and coconuts, but you don't know. And it's up to you on whether you want to make that choice. So carry what you want. Have different options if you want. Carry around 14 different things because you can show how smart and great you are with all these things. You better be proficient. You better have training on it. And you better be able to justify why you used them or why you didn't use them. And if you've only got a gun and you train with a gun and you can say why you used it and why you didn't use it, I think you're going to be better off. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS method always seems to work best. But you know what? Everyone has their own choice and they can do what they want. I guess we'll end that there on whether you should carry pepper spray, baton, knife, Kubaton, spitball, slingshot, whatever else you want to carry. And I forgot, in your liberal cities, they've caught on to these other uses of force, and they're all about rules, regulations, and stopping freedoms. So they have special rules and special laws for special weapons, and you better know it. You better not think I can go get a stun gun or a pepper spray, and that'll be a less lethal than a gun, and then I'll be smart and I can just say, well, on YouTube, I was told I should carry all this. Well, you know what? You better know what the laws are for each weapon that you use, which is another thing to slow down reaction time and to confuse an already critical, rapidly evolving situation to where you may die when you make a mistake. And if you want to make all these decisions and play roadside lawyer and roadside use of force expert in the middle of trying to save your life, well, then knock yourself out. That's not my advice, but you know what? I'm one guy and I got one opinion. We'll end that there.